Part 74. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 733. After getting these 3 battle techniques, he was ready to start retreating. He said it was retreat, but in fact he was practicing with Feng Xiaoxiao and giving Feng Xiaoxiao some guidance from time to time. Before practicing the battle tactics, the last Tianyuan realm arrives. Dense lightning appeared on his body out of thin air, erupted from the source of destruction, and instantly engulfed his whole body. The last Tianyuan realm is called the Thunder-Devouring Tribulation. After many people reach the 9th level of the Tianyuan realm, they are devoured by this Thunder-Devouring Tribulation. It is possible that the realm may even be several levels. It is the most terrifying calamity in the Tianyuan realm. But Zhang Zizai is not too worried, because his demonic cauldron still exists. When his thunder-devouring tribulation first appeared, the demonic cauldron directly suppressed it. With the demonic cauldron existing, Zhang Zizai's body cannot be protected if it is destroyed. How is it possible? The situation was similar when the Tianyuan realm, the 8th level of the Tianyuan realm, came before. I wonder how much damage this Demon Lord Cauldron can withstand for me. At what level above the first God realm can it hurt me? This question may only be known in the Divine realm. Zhang Zizai wanted to practice at least 2 high-grade dry-level battle techniques before entering the Divine realm. He chose the Great Chaos Thunder Demon Fist and the Great Chaos Thunder God Flash, both of which were slightly simpler than the other. When the Death God Mysterious Armament transforms into a fist glove, its lethality is also very strong. For at least 2 months in the early stage, Zhang Zizai mainly pondered the battle tactics, and first understood the tactics thoroughly. 2 or 3 months were spent entirely on pondering the battle tactics, which was already a lot of effort. Apart from practicing, he would occasionally personally guide Feng Xiaoxiao in her practice, flirt a bit, and tease Ling Ding. Her life was wonderful and smooth. Sometimes I think that it would be very cool to stay in the origin continent and be the overlord. It's a pity that this is not Zhang Zizai's wish. If he stays here, he will only be unable to make any progress in his life. Only by witnessing higher mountains can we have the courage to climb. Moreover, for the bell and to see the 9 immortals, he had to go out. After about 3 months, I almost figured it out. This is actually the most time Zhang Zizai has spent on the battle tactics. After all, the entire process of the ancient demon tomb only lasted 3 months. He is 19 years old. 100 days later, he moved his training place to the East China Sea. This time he did not bring Feng Xiaoxiao. He came to the depths of the East China Sea alone just to start practicing the Great Chaos Thunder Demon Fist and the Great Chaos Thunder God Flash. Since then, large areas of the East China Sea have been covered and swallowed up by black thunder. Countless lightnings were swimming in it, almost dyeing the entire East China Sea black. With one punch, water equivalent to half the size of the Zhang dynasty rose into the sky and surged away on top of the power of thunder. Boom boom boom. Every day and night, the East China Sea falls into endless chaos. A black lightning flashed in the endless sea, passing thousands of miles away. Half a year in total. Zhang Zizai finally mastered these 2 tactics. After all, it spans too many levels of practice, so it is very brain-consuming and very difficult to control. However, hard work pays off, and I succeeded in the end. Although it took half a year, the power is definitely synchronized enough. It is almost impossible for beings at the same level as me to practice such high-level tactics. He is ahead of others in terms of totems, he is ahead of others in weapons such as the level of destruction Tianyuan and the god-killing mysterious weapon Demon King Cauldron, and now he has to be ahead of others in battle tactics. Half a year is longer than my entire Tianyuan realm cultivation time. Zhang Zizai was a little confused about whether to laugh or cry. Sure enough, in a place like the ancient demon tomb, with good fortune, time is efficient. In the origin continent, the efficiency is indeed very low. This is the difference between where people are. This is also the reason why he wants to leave the origin continent. In the past 6 months, he has also been sprinting towards the first god realm. In fact, he has put in a lot of effort and has never stopped thinking about the eternal dragon view, but so far it has no effect. It seems that the cultivation of Tianyuan realm, especially the destruction of Tianyuan, still has to be in a fighting environment. Zhang Zizai was originally planning to reach the first god realm before leaving, but when he found that it was almost impossible to break through to the first god realm while staying in the origin continent, he had already made the choice to leave. Finally leaving? I'm tired of looking at you like a monster all day long. Let's go now. After Zhang Zizai expressed his thoughts, Zhang Junjian said with a smile. If I go, shouldn't I be crying bitterly and feeling very reluctant to let go of your handsome brother, Zhang Zizai said. How is it possible? In terms of appearance, you are not 1/10 of me. Zhang Junjian has been in a very good mood recently because Dong Yangjing is about to give birth to his second child. After chatting for a while, Zhang Zizai was about to leave. It won't be too early when we meet next time. Remember, as long as you don't die, there is a way out, Zhang Junjian said. Don't worry, Zhang Zizai held his hand. Brothers, you don't need to say too much, sometimes a look is enough. Are you sure you don't want to take Miss Feng away? Because Zhang Zizai would let others follow him in the evolutionary world, he basically followed him to the divine realm. She knows the purpose of my trip, so she doesn't want to follow me. She has her own way, and I respect her, Zhang Zizai said. That's okay, Zhang Junjian nodded. Go and say goodbye to her. I'll talk to Ning'er and Xiao Yu. Zhang Yanning and the others are going to the evolutionary world, which can be considered as parting ways with Zhang Junjian. Before setting off, Zhang Zizai and Feng Xiaoxiao stood together, looking at the bright moon in the sky. I suddenly remembered that when I was on the top floor of the Beast God Tower, you two were always shameless and impetuous, which really pissed me off, Feng Xiaoxiao suddenly said with a smile. Haha. He was indeed very hot-blooded back then. Go find her. She has given birth to children for you. She is someone worth your efforts. You don't need to consider me. Sometimes I am a small green leaf beside you, which is just right for me. It's quite comfortable. Zhang Zizai looked at her profile, and she was indeed smiling very contentedly. In fact, I made a lot of money. I got the universe level totem, and I also have the spiritual energy to practice. I also have the position of the sect master. Layer and Mu11 don't know how much they envy me, she said with a smile. Is this contentment? In fact, I don't know what to say. I always tease you, but I don't give you results. It sounds like I'm quite a rogue. Zhang Zizai shook his head. Don't think like that. Just remember, come back next time, or one day, let me become a god, haha. She laughed in the moonlight, with a look of great success. Definitely. Zhang Zizai reached out and held her palm. It was warm to the touch. Goodbye. He pulled her, hugged her, and patted her back. Feng Xiaoxiao was stunned for a moment, then reached out and hugged him, her head resting on his chest, with mist in the corners of her eyes. Goodbye. She gently pulled Zhang Zizai's palm away, turned around and ran away. Madman continues to write, there may be more tonight, or there may not be, because I am afraid that I am too tired to write. I suggest you read it tomorrow. The fastest update reading, please bookmark this site to read the latest novels. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 734. The Well of the Divine Realm. Zhang Zizai came here again, and there was no one outside the gate of the realm. In order to follow Zhang Zizai to the divine realm, Zhang Yuning and the others had already arrived at the evolution realm. This was a way to get into the divine realm. Zhang Zizai had spent half a day, and he had begun to ponder the great chaos immortal sword formation, but there was still no sign of entering the initial divine realm, so he planned to continue traveling in the well of the divine realm for a while to see if there was any more good fortune. It is said that good fortune often appears in the well of the divine realm, and the ancient gods are very interested in selecting talents here. Zhang Zizai was too lonely alone, so he brought the bell out, and the father and daughter shuttled through the well of the divine realm. After a while, Lu Dingxing also wanted to come out a little bit, and he began to approach the Tianyuan realm. After reaching the Tianyuan realm, the effectiveness of closed-door cultivation would be very low, and he also began to need to come out to accumulate combat experience and insights. As for the others, they had to practice the divine seal realm honestly first. The combination of 2 adults and 1 child looked very strange in the well of the divine domain. In the yellow sand, a slender young man in black was holding a little girl dressed like a porcelain doll and very cute, and next to him was a man like a giant beast. Lu Dingxing's figure became more and more burly, like a giant bear standing upright. The bloodshot in his left eye was all over his body, making him look very ferocious. Only the purity of his right eye could make people feel closer. Affected by the devil eye, he still spoke incoherently. The well of the divine domain runs through countless totem worlds and leads to the divine domain. Do you yearn for the divine domain? Maybe there are many ancient gods, Zhang Zizai said. Okay, I'll go wherever you go. It was very difficult for him to speak, but sometimes, Zhang Zizai knew what he meant with just one look from him. We have to find a way to cure your speech problem, Zhang Zizai said. Lu Dingxing shook his head, meaning that it was not necessary. He should not think that this would be a hindrance. The appearance of this strange eye gave him great confidence. Now there is almost no opponent for Zhang Zizai in the well of divine domain, otherwise Lu Dingxing could have gained some experience. After a while, when Lingling grew up slowly, incredible changes actually occurred. One day, Zhang Zizai was using the killing god Xianbing to kill a 10th grade source beast. During this process, Lingling, who had transformed into a little white dragon and wandered around, suddenly changed. When her eyes sparkled, she suddenly turned into a white light and merged into the killing god Xianbing. Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing were both stunned. After the white light merged into the killing god Xianbing, the originally dark and murderous killing god Xianbing had white dragon-shaped patterns on it, and the dragon-shaped patterns shone with white fluorescence. During this process, when Zhang Zizai used the killing god Xianbing, he suddenly found that the power of the killing god Xianbing had increased by at least 50%. Its attributes were not changed, but the power was purely enhanced, as if the dragon-shaped pattern was completely an amplification effect, and it was only effective for weapons. Daddy, am I awesome? Lingling transformed from a dragon-shaped pattern into a human again and returned to Zhang Zizai's arms. How did you do it? Zhang Zizai was still a little dizzy. I don't know, it just suddenly became possible, Lingling said in confusion. Zhang Zizai didn't know what to say. His daughter could not only transform into something like a totem beast, but now she could also transform into a dragon-shaped pattern and integrate into the weapon to increase the power of the weapon. Is she still a human being? It seems that this little guy has secrets that he doesn't even know about. Amazing, even Lu Dingxing couldn't help but admire. Daddy, you must take me with you in the future. Lingling can help you a lot, Lingling said very proudly. It seems that she has dug out such a skill, and it seems that she has also tried her best to follow Zhang Zizai to wander and does not want to stay on the deserted island of the evolution world. Haha. Zhang Zizai could only laugh. It must be said that the bell not only allows him to have an extraordinary ability to escape, but also enhances his attack power, which is really very useful to him. But, let his daughter possess the weapon and fight on the front line? What if she is injured? Zhang Zizai still has to hesitate. Daddy, Lingling will try to help you more. You just need to grow up well. No, Lingling will also find her mother through her own efforts. The young are really formidable. Zhang Zizai couldn't help but hug her tightly. It turned out to be his little lover in the previous life. Zhang Zizai now treats her as a jewel in his palm. Besides, even if your weapon is broken, I will be fine. This is actually my way of self-protection. As long as I enter the weapon, I am equivalent to having an extra layer of protection, Ling Ling said seriously. Really? In this case, Zhang Zizai felt more relieved. At least, the killing god Xianbing was much tougher than himself. Even if he died in battle, the killing god Xianbing might not be destroyed. Zhang Zizai walked all the way north, heading towards the direction of the ancient demon tomb. Going to the ancient demon tomb was a small matter, but breaking through the initial god realm was a big deal. Half a year had passed, and how to succeed in a small way to destroy Tianyuan had become Zhang Zizai's biggest headache. He was thinking every day, and the thinking part alone was enough, but he lacked a strong stimulation and enlightenment, which was also a lack of real guidance, so he was like a headless fly, unable to find a breakthrough. But he was not in a hurry. He still had 1 year left. As long as he reached the initial god realm before the age of 20, he would not leave the lower god well. Once he reached the middle god well, he would never find the guardian of the ancient demon tomb again. At this time, he was in a city and heard about another city. The news is absolutely correct. We got the news too late. I don't know how many people have already gone to Jianyuan city. The sword fell from the sky, and an ancient god came down in person and said that whoever can pull out the sword can follow him to the god realm and become a god from then on. Is it really an ancient god? Besides the ancient gods, can there be so many people who surpass us in the lower god realm? Well, that's true. I heard that most of the people who went to the ancient demon tomb last time went, and this time there is no need for a map or star monument, anyone can go, so Jianyuan city is almost crowded. What kind of sword is that? It's so difficult to pull it out. The sword of God makes people so difficult. It is estimated that those who can pull it out must be truly talented. It may not have anything to do with strength. It depends purely on talent. Anyway, there is a chance anyway, who doesn't want to try it? There is still time now. If you don't set off now, when will you set off? Don't you drink this cup before leaving? Forget it, I can't wait. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 735. After discussing, a group of them left in a hurry. Zhang Zizai also stood up and said, "Let's also go to Jianyuan city to have a look." Not long after the experience in the ancient demon tomb, the ancient god came to set up this kind of test again. This was too dense, but after all, it was an opportunity, and Zhang Zizai was ready to take a look. Maybe it's other ancient god forces besides the Holy Emperor Tianmen and the Eternal Night Star Sea? After knowing that these two forces have made good gains in the Well of God's domain, why do you want to give it a try? Zhang Zizai guessed this, but it was obvious that this group of people were much kinder now. They didn't build any ancient demon tombs, but just took out a sword and let people use it. How simple and direct. Zhang Zizai had a partial map of the Well of God's domain in his hand, which marked the location of Sword Cloud City. This was actually a city built in the Sword Soul Totem world. It was considered one of the largest cities in the Well of God's domain. It seemed that the ancient god the goal is relatively obvious. Does that person named Xuanhuan look like a monkey? Lu Dingxing asked. It's not like that, Zhang Zizai said. He was not the same kind of person at all. They are all sword totems. Lu Dingxing looked up ahead, probably still missing the time when the three of them grew up together. He was the one who couldn't accept Monkey's rebellion the most. It was the most unimaginable thing in his life. It's a pity to this day. They used the flying talisman to quickly approach, and it took about 10 days before they arrived at the distant Jianyuan city. Along the way, they could indeed see a very large number of geniuses approaching Xuanhuan city. Because there were no restrictions this time, they came. There are many people in the Divine Seal realm. Outside Xuanhuan city, there is already a sea of people. These people are obviously blocked outside and cannot enter. Most of them are below the Divine Seal realm. The totem array in Xuanhuan city does not seem to be turned on, so there are still many people who come from the city wall. Entering, Xuanhuan city is now bustling with people, and there are crowds of people everywhere. They are surrounding a center, and it is easy to find the center. Zhang Zizai quickly passed through the crowd and directly reached the depths of the well of God's domain. Geniuses are almost all here. Zhang Zizai is here. Someone soon recognized him, and they knew that this person was simply a maniac who possessed enlightenment. He was very promising in this kind of test, and that was what made people jealous. Unfortunately, no one dared to stop him. Zhang Zizai had already seen that in the middle of a square in the center of Xuanhuan city, there was a high platform. On the high platform, a dim yellow longsword was inserted. The longsword was old and dull. Everyone feels drowsy, their emotions are very deep, and they feel like death is shrouding them unconsciously. All of this is only slightly revealed by this sword, which is already depressing enough. Intuition told Zhang Zizai that this might be a magic weapon. It was not a mortal thing at all. Its lethality might exceed his imagination. And the more he looked at it, the more he felt awe. He was thinking like this: the divine weapons, which may have been regarded as being in the divine realm, were all extremely valuable treasures, but now they actually appeared in the well of the divine realm. Zhang Zizai just glanced at it a few more times, and his heart suddenly became extremely dark. This sword could actually affect people's emotions invisibly, making people feel desperate. He quickly shifted his attention and saw many old acquaintances next to the long sword, all of whom he had met at the ancient demon tomb. Huangfukan, Nan Tianyuan, Princess Shenjiao, Haiyu, and Li Zixiao were all there, and of course the owner of Sword Cloud City, Suqianyu, who was closest to the sword. They all stood in front of the sword, their eyes blazing, and occasionally look at the sky with respectful eyes. When Zhang Zizai landed, they all looked over. Li Zixiao smiled and said hello, and he knew Zhang Zizai would come. Zhang Zizai also glanced at the sky at this time. It was covered with dim yellow sand. It seemed like there was nothing there, but everyone was in awe. This clearly meant that an ancient god had appeared in this position before. Li Zixiao and the others came over. "You came a little late, I thought you would miss it," Li Zixiao said. "I don't quite understand yet. What's going on?" Zhang Zizai missed a lot and could only ask them. Li Zixiao said, "It's almost the same as the ancient demon tomb, except this time the ancient god appeared directly, threw down the sword of Forgotten River, and directly declared, 'No matter who it is, as long as he can pull out this sword of Forgotten River, you can become the master of the Wangchuan sword, which is the most precious treasure of the Forgotten Sword Tomb. If a person is born, he can directly enter the Wangchuan Sword Tomb, and his future is boundless, and he will undoubtedly become a god. The number one treasure? Take it out like this. What kind of force in the divine domain is this Wangchuan Sword Tomb?" Zhang Zizai said in astonishment. "It sounds a bit unusual. Based on my understanding, it may actually be similar to the Holy Emperor Tianmen and Eternal Night Star Sea," Li Zixiao said. "No way, there are almost the same forces, there are so many ancient gods, take out the most precious treasure in the sect? Are you fishing here?" Zhang Zizai asked in confusion. "I have a guess," Li Zixiao said. "You think so? Last time, Holy Emperor Tianmen and Yanjai Xingai found Shenxiao and Lingxian in the ancient demon tomb. It is possible that these two people have performed very well in the past 6 months, so the Wangchuan Sword Tomb also wanted to try their luck. The reason why they took out this Wangchuan sword is just for luck. If Lenbuting lets them find the successor of Wangchuan sword, Doesn't it feel like they've made a profit? So, in fact, the ancient god himself didn't expect us to succeed. Yes, I also think it's purely luck, Zhang Yaokan said. Zhang Zizai nodded, this might be the only explanation. What's the situation now? Zhang Zizai asked. There are still people going up to the high platform and trying to pull out the forgotten sword, but many people were thrown away before they even got close. There was a Tianyuan realm, the 8th level finally grasped the hilt of the sword, but it flew out quickly and fell to pieces. As you can see, this sword has been around for more than a month. We basically tried it. I tried it more than 30 times, but there was no chance of success. It just flew out, Li Zixiao said with a bitter smile. Actually, the people present, who have some status, have basically gone up there. Most of the people who are going up now are newcomers, but there is basically no hope, Zhang Yaokan said. I discovered that there are only two types of people in slightly better situations. One is those with high cultivation talent and can persist for a while, and the other is a sword totem. For example, people in the sword soul totem world can generally persist for a while, Su Mo said. It turns out that everything has been tried. Zhang Zizai glanced around and saw Xuanhuan standing in front of the sword, meditating, and asked, this sounds like he is the most promising. How many times has he been up there? As the master of Jianyuan City, he should have tried it countless times. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 736. I heard that he went up once. It was his first attempt, but he failed. However, after the failure, he seemed to have been observing and didn't go up again, Li Zixiao said. You can be so patient, Zhang Zizai was a little surprised. Generally, in this situation, everyone would pay attention to him. He could not bear to go up and watch others go up. This also requires a kind of courage. Because it was too difficult, these geniuses did not restrict others. As long as they could squeeze in and line up, almost no one cared. They would always get a turn. Zhang Zizai could go up directly, but he was not in a hurry, so he lined up at the back of the line. Not going up directly, Li Zixiao asked. Watch it first. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow Smoke Ji Wu. He felt that the first chance should be very important. If it didn't succeed, it would be no different from being eliminated. This was probably the reason why Xuanhuan couldn't bear to go up, because he was sure that his chances were very slim. I'll try. Lu Dingxing lined up behind Zhang Zizai. The bell hung on Zhang Zizai's back, curiously looking at the Wang Chuan sword, his eyes rolling. Although the team was long, it was actually consumed very quickly, and basically one person in front could be seen flying out. Zhang Zizai, Princess Shenjiao and others had already seen him, and they immediately surrounded him, because they felt that Zhang Zizai would be a very big threat. When he was in the ancient demon tomb, he showed extraordinary abilities in this regard. Princess Shenjiao may not know that Zhang Fanchen disappeared and died at the hands of Zhang Zizai. They didn't know what happened later. Their eyes were burning, and they must be very reluctant to let Zhang Zizai go up, but they just couldn't stop him. Many people knew that he was powerful, so they focused their attention on him. Can he succeed? Without the sword totem, it's basically impossible. Xuanhuan didn't succeed, let alone him. His ability to comprehend may not be useful, because what he needs most is the recognition of the Wang Chuan sword. That makes sense. Did the big man next to him in the Divine Seal realm come with him? It seems so. He looks scary. If his realm is not too low, it would be scary. Did you see his eyes? The left eye is even weirder than Zhang Zizai's. In the spotlight, it was their turn. Zhang Zizai patted Lu Dingxing's shoulder and asked him to go up first. Lingling asked him why, and he said that the best people must be ranked at the back. Bragging, shame on you, Lingdang said disdainfully. Lu Dingxing was tall and strong, and because he came with Zhang Zizai, he still attracted a lot of attention. He was very smart. He used his left hand, which was covered with bloodshot eyes, to hold the Wang Chuan sword. His movements were swift and clean. Before people could react, his hand was already on the Wang Chuan sword. Buzz. In this instant, the Wang Chuan sword vibrated, causing the entire Jianyuan city to tremble. In this roar, Jianyuan city seemed to tremble as if it was about to collapse. Ugh! The bloodshot on Lu Dingxing's left eye spread instantly, and even spread directly to the Wang Chuan sword, while the Wang Chuan sword rose up countless sword energy, as if resisting, and the sword energy like a wave rolled rapidly. Roar! Lu Dingxing roared, and the bloodshot was suppressed again, but the Wang Chuan sword was still surging with sword energy, and countless dim auras were aroused, suppressing Lu Dingxing's bloodline back. Who is this guy? Is he going to succeed? Everything people saw was absolutely beyond their expectations. However, what made them happy was that at the last moment, Lu Dingxing still collapsed. His bloodline was suppressed by the Wang Chuan sword. With a bang, he was knocked back a few steps and almost fell to the ground. Only then did the trembling of Jianyuan city end. He failed. Many people breathed a sigh of relief. It was really scary just now. But even so, Lu Dingxing's performance was the best so far. Even Xuanhuan couldn't reach this point. In fact, Zhang Zizai knew that the reason for his failure was not that he couldn't control it, but that the Wang Chuan sword was very repulsive to him. In short, it felt completely inappropriate, so it was so repulsive. If it was a sword totem like Xuanhuan, it is estimated that the Wang Chuan sword would have accepted it. Boss, you go. Lu Dingxing shook his head and walked down. His expression was a little depressed. After all, he had seen the hope of success. It was Zhang Zizai's turn. He was the one who attracted everyone's attention. When Lu Dingxing showed such strength, Zhang Zizai went up now, which undoubtedly made people have more ideas in their minds. Even Xuanhuan was staring at him. Brother Zhang, are you sure? Xuanhuan asked. He should want to get the Wang Chuan sword very much. I haven't tried it, I don't know anything. Zhang Zizai smiled. Why, are you afraid? That's not the case. If you can succeed, I can only feel ashamed of myself. The Wang Chuan sword is fair, Xuanhuan said. That makes sense. It's really good that he can think so clearly. Zhang Zizai focused his attention on the Wang Chuan sword. The pattern of the sword was like an endless river of death. He finally felt that it was actually the breath of death, endless, extremely dark, enough to swallow people. The so-called Wang Chuan is death. This is the sword of death, full of death. No weapon can lift its head, including Zhang Zizai's current killing god Xianbing. He guessed that the killing god Xianbing was not complete. When he reached out and gently touched the hilt of the Wang Chuan sword, at first, he felt cold, just like an iron sword in the mortal world, without any special features. Then, a cold breath rose from it and poured into Zhang Zizai's body. It was indeed a strong breath of death. Under the cover of such a breath, almost as soon as he closed his eyes, he felt that his body was trapped in another world. It was a feeling of drowning. The more he struggled, the deeper he sank. There was no way to survive. When he opened his eyes again, he was indeed in the dim turbid water. There was thick mud and sand in the water, and there were many other things. They were bones washed transparent by the river water, densely packed, drifting in one direction. When Zhang Zizai struggled, his hands and feet could touch many such bones. He was also carried away by the surging waves. Drowning, unable to breathe, losing all strength, his spirit forever sunk into despair, unable to think of any happy things or hope, entangled in endless pain, wanting to die but unable to, with corpses everywhere around him, those skulls floating by, looking at Zhang Zizai with empty eyes, as if telling Zhang Zizai not to struggle anymore. There is one more chapter, a little later. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 737. Death, like this vast river, is endless. It is not a moment, but an eternal torture. It's like the passage of time. As time goes by, the people struggling in the long river have become bones. Life is the process from the river of forgetfulness to the sea of suffering. Except for suffering, it is all suffering, endless. All happiness is like bubbles on the river. It will burst when you touch it. You can only talk about sex. The touching feelings are just like when you are drowning in the river. The mutual embrace, with the force of the river, will be washed away sooner or later. When it is washed away, it is the same as the separation of flesh and blood. When the river water enters the body, the pain will only be more complete. The river of forgetfulness will eventually turn people into corpses amid endless torture. Drowning, despair, everything is silent. Occasionally I touch the bubbles and can take a breath of air, but then there is endless fear. Who can jump onto the river to see how long the river of forgetfulness is and how big the sea of bitterness is? Zhang Zizai saw that there were countless people drowning with him. They struggled, but could not resist and eventually died. The birth of life is destined to be destroyed. If you become a god, you may have a long life and become stronger, but gods will also die in battle and be destroyed. Is there any life that cannot be destroyed? He drifted on this long river. As time passed, he became tired and numb, and began to think. If such a life exists, then I will become such a life. Life that cannot be destroyed. He suddenly realized something. If I practice destroying Tianyuan, will I eventually have to destroy myself? If the existence of this Tianyuan is to make everything else cease to exist, then am I not also one of the everything else? This is confusion. This Tianyuan is so profound that other Tianyuan don't even need to think about such problems. This is a contradiction. Endless contradictions and countless entanglements. He was suffering in pain because he couldn't figure out the problem, so his cultivation was stuck here and he couldn't make progress. It wasn't even just a problem of cultivation. Destroying Tianyuan is not a small way after all, but the supreme avenue. He didn't know if he had been in this situation for 100 years or 1,000 years, or if countless centuries had passed. This kind of pride and torture was really not something ordinary people could endure. It's just that Zhang Zizai has always been thinking about these two people, so every time he thinks about it, death, but gritted his teeth and persisted. Those two people are naturally his Jur and his Bel. One is waiting for him, and the other needs his protection to grow. For these two people, he couldn't die here. Finally one day, he persisted to the sea of suffering. Perhaps at this time, he was already a corpse. The sea of suffering is boundless. He worked hard to reach the surface of the sea and found that this was the heaven, earth, and universe. There was no end at all, and all the worlds were in the sea of suffering. Is the will to destroy Tianyuan finally to break the sea of suffering? And I am in the sea of suffering. If the sea of suffering is broken, I will die. It's like dying together, but he exists to achieve eternal life. This is always an endless contradiction. Right. He looked down at himself. In that case, why can't I destroy Tianyuan itself? If I am Tianyuan, then I am the one who destroys the sea of suffering, not myself. When the sea of suffering is destroyed, everything will be destroyed, but I am the one who destroys everything. I myself am eternal life. He found his niche. In the past, he felt that he was life and a human being. Even if he became a god, he would still be life. But now, he no longer sees himself as life, but as the source of heaven itself. Then there will be no contradictions in everything, and everything will be smooth. In fact, Zhang Zizai didn't know that many ancient gods might not be able to understand such a change in his position, but he understood it by chance in the Wangchuan sword. This is actually the most difficult part to understand during the journey of cultivation. Even if someone else points it out, if you don't experience it yourself, you won't understand it at all, or you will only know the basics. But now, he has experienced hundreds of thousands of years of wandering, and his experience has become so profound. The deeper he went, the greater the experience he gained at this time. He finally felt that he was out of this nightmare-like place, and his consciousness returned to his body. From this moment on, the source of destruction in his body grew completely unprecedentedly. This is the most ferocious period of growth. The source of heaven is me, and I am the source of heaven. Integration and thoroughness, the height of the realm of thinking, determines destruction. Tianyuan's recognition of itself. The more Zhang Zizhe understands this Tianyuan, the closer he is to becoming this Tianyuan itself, which means that he has the cultivation of destruction. Tianyuan has completely reached a small level of perfection. This is Tianyuan's small success. Tianyuan Xiaocheng has reached the first God realm. At this time, Zhang Zizhe felt the growth of destruction. Tianyuan. The step-by-step changes reached the limit and gradually formed a transformation. After the growth of the petals reached a limit, the color seemed to become darker. Just here at that moment, the petals began to vibrate slightly. With each vibration, Zhang Zizhe could sense that all the destructive forces between heaven and earth vibrated together. This was the sign of the first God realm. The power of heaven and earth that can be mobilized by the first God realm is 10 times that of the Tianyuan realm. This is the creation of a demigod. Now Zhang Zizhe has officially entered the realm of the first God. He is still consolidating his realm, so he doesn't care what happens outside. Anyway, no one will disturb him for the time being. He almost forgot about the matter of the Xuanhuan sword. After all, his focus is on the breakthrough of this realm. When all the realms are stable, he opened his eyes and found that he was sitting cross-legged on a high platform, and the Xuanhuan sword was still inserted there, motionless. Obviously, he didn't seem to pull out the Xuanhuan sword. After all, the Xuanhuan sword seemed to feel that it was not particularly suitable for him. This is the sword of death, and Zhang Zizhe has to control more than just death. It should be that during the breakthrough process, the Xuanhuan sword broke away from him, allowing Zhang Zizhe to successfully reach the realm of the first God. Zhang Zizhe had no regrets for not succeeding. After all, being able to reach the realm of the first God is already a great gain. Now he can go to find the guardian of the ancient demon tomb and enter the divine realm. But he is still a little curious, who will the Xuanhuan sword belong to in the end? When he stood up, everyone looked at him in shock. He has reached the initial God realm. Wasn't he only at the second level of the heavenly origin realm? Even so, he didn't pull out the forgetful sword. Just now he almost succeeded. It seemed that he was just one step away from the forgetful sword breaking free. What a pity. The 7th volume, The King of Gods, has begun. I have been thinking about the plot of a whole volume recently, so please forgive me for my slow writing. I will pay it back. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 738. In general, Zhang Zizhe felt that he was close to success. He stood up again and approached the Xuanhuan sword, trying to suppress and control it, but this time the Xuanhuan sword reacted more violently. Even though Zhang Zizhe had almost controlled it before, it was very disrespectful now and directly shook Zhang Zizhe away. This sword seemed to have a mind, as if saying, I have already allowed you to break through to the initial God realm, and you still dare to expect too much. So Zhang Zizhe was helpless. Since it was the first treasure of the Xuanhuan sword tomb, the names of its forces were all named after the Xuanhuan sword. If you can control it, it would be a step to heaven. Obviously, The ancient god was just trying his luck. I am afraid that according to his estimation, even if everyone in the well of the divine domain tried it, there might not be anyone who could cause the Wang Chuan sword to react at all. Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing both had a small chance of success, which was enough to surprise him. If it doesn't work, go down, don't occupy it. There are still many people waiting behind, Huang Fukan said. It was really thrilling just now. Fortunately, Zhang Zizai tried twice, but still failed. In fact, Zhang Zizai had already felt that Wang Chuan's sword might feel that there was no fate, or that it was a little afraid of Zhang Zizai's source of destruction, so no matter how many times he tried next, the result would be the same. In this case, it is better to stop at the right time. Anyway, the fortune that should be obtained has been obtained. He came down from the high platform, and many people breathed a sigh of relief. Many people did not go up to try, and they felt that they still had a chance. The next person was ready to appear. At this time, Xuanhuan from the Sword Soul Totem world stopped in front of that person and walked onto the high platform again. His eyes were very solemn, as if he had been guided. He had been forbearing for a long time, and this time he suddenly went up, and it seemed that he really had some confidence. After all, he was the best sword totem owner, and he naturally attracted a lot of attention when he went up again. He has already failed. In fact, failure means rejection, and there is basically no hope. They all say that. For example, Princess Shenjiao and the others have tried dozens of times, but the result is the same. Although Xuanhuan has not been there many times, he lacks a little mystery compared to Zhang Zizai. People analyzed it very thoroughly, so they felt much more relaxed. In such an environment, Xuanhuan closed his eyes, concentrated and held his breath. He looked very simple. He gently stretched out his hand and placed it on the hilt of the Wang Chuan sword. At that moment, he seemed to merge with the Wang Chuan sword. There was no strong sense of confrontation between the two, unlike Zhang Zizai and the Wang Chuan sword, which were tit for tat. Instead, it was silent, like a spring breeze, without any movement. It looked like Xuanhuan stretched out his hand and gently stroked the bluestone on the side of the road. Then, he barely used any strength, and gently lifted it, and the Wang Chuan sword actually loosened a little, and then it was like a wooden sword, and he pulled it out of the ground and held it in his hand. At that moment, even Xuanhuan himself was stunned. He stared at the wooden sword in his hand, and the whole person was almost suffocated. I succeeded, the boy was completely confused. He just saw that Zhang Zizai had successfully made the Wang Chuan sword move, so he was a little itchy, so he came forward at this time. In fact, he had no confidence in himself. When he thought he would be shaken away, he never expected that the Wang Chuan sword would be so light. It was like a wooden sword, light and weightless, as if no one would think that he was holding such a first treasure in his hand. To be honest, people would rather believe that Zhang Zizai could get the Wang Chuan sword than Xuanhuan. After all, when he tried last time, he was far from the movement of Zhang Zizai, and even Lu Dingxing was far inferior. Damn, Zhang Zizai was confused. This was too easy. Something is wrong. He was almost the same as us last time. How come he succeeded suddenly? Could it be because you were in front? Did you trigger some kind of switch of the Wang Chuan sword? Li Zixiao asked suspiciously. Zhang Zizai shook his head. He thought it shouldn't be the case. How could the Wang Chuan sword be so trivial? He had reached that level just now, but he didn't let himself control it. How could the Wang Chuan sword that Xuanhuan could finally control have anything to do with him? I think it might have something to do with you and me, Lu Dingxing said. You think so too? Zhang Zizai was puzzled. Fate, arrangement, Lu Dingxing said. Haha, don't make random substitutions. He is not a monkey. Zhang Zizai knew that this guy had some associations because of a name, such as thinking that this might be the arrangement of fate. In any case, the Wang Chuan sword has chosen its master. In addition to the disappointment and regret of countless people, only Xuanhuan was ecstatic after reacting. He held the sword of death and stared at the people around him in a daze, his face showing both joy and nervousness. He was nervous because he was worried that he was dreaming. However, he had already found a cut on his hand, and his blood was madly pouring into the Wang Chuan sword. There seemed to be an endless dim yellow river in the Wang Chuan sword, with countless corpses floating in it. After his blood flowed into it, it turned all the endless river into his blood at once. He and the Wang Chuan sword had merged into one, as if from now on, he was the sword. The feeling of blood connection was so real that it would not deceive anyone at all. At that moment, he even felt the improvement of his life realm. He seemed to have become another kind of existence, enough to fly above all living beings. Xuanhuan, this, Sword Soul Totem world, it's a blessing. Many young people looked up at the boy, their eyes full of yearning and envy. Is this okay? Zhang Zizai smiled dumbly. Fortunately, this Xuanhuan was still pleasing to the eye. If it were someone else, he would probably be a little unhappy. At this moment, a cry of surprise suddenly came from the endless sky. With a whoosh, a man in a blue robe appeared on the high platform. He was a middle-aged man, a bit like Feng Xiaoyao in the past, but he looked more sloppy. He was covered with a lot of mud, his beard and hair were a mess, and what he held in his hand was not just a wine pot, but a wine jar, which was more than 5 times larger than his head. He held the wine jar in one hand and carried a sword behind him. The strong smell of wine could be smelled from a distance, and the smell alone was enough to make people drunk. Even though this man was so sloppy, no one dared to look down on him. When he appeared, people knelt on the ground and shouted greetings to the ancient god. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 739. There is no doubt that this person is the ancient god of the Wang Chuan sword tomb, and it was he who brought the first treasure, the Wang Chuan sword, here. After he came here, his eyes were as big as copper bells, and he was in a sluggish state. He stared at Xuanhuan with his big mouth, and his tongue almost fell out of his mouth. There was no image of an ancient god at all. With such an existence, he said in a trembling voice, you, forget, that sword has found a successor? Have you become the death sword body? Oh my god. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. He was so excited that he couldn't speak clearly. Xuanhuan was equally excited. He quickly knelt down and worshipped this ancient god as well. A new sword master of Forgotten River is born? Huh. I read that right. Damn it, how could there be so many wizards in this well of God's realm? I really made a lot of money, ha ha ha. God is helping me. The man was so happy that he seemed to lose his temper. This ancient god seems to be very calm and down to earth. Ancient god, can I follow you to the divine realm? Xuanhuan asked nervously. Of course you can. You will be the treasure of our forgotten sword tomb from now on. You don't know what the forgotten sword master is to us, my child. My god, I just came down to kill some time and try my luck. It's really appeared. Judging from the exaggeration of his expression, you can tell how important the birth of the Wang Chuan sword master is. Ancient god, is this really the #1 treasure of the forgotten sword tomb? Xuanhuan asked. I can't lie to you. Lucky guy, do you know how many people in God's domain have failed in their attempts to become the masters of the Forgotten River sword, and you, a kitten and puppy in a small ravine, have become the masters of the sword of Forgotten Sword. Now it's good now that you have achieved great success, immortality is the minimum, and if everything goes well, you will have no problem becoming the top ancient god in the divine realm. So powerful, Xuanhuan was a little confused. It was just a sword. Is it such an exaggeration? Zhang Zizai was also stunned. It was just a sword. He suddenly felt why others were so lucky. Shenxiao was selected by the Holy Emperor Tianmen, Lingxian was selected by the Evernight Star Sea, and Suqianyu was selected by the Wangchuan Sword Tomb. The key is that this guy can still become the top ancient god? Isn't that the most terrifying existence among gods? That is an existence that stands at the pinnacle of all living beings. Ancient god, how should I call you? Suqianyu said excitedly. Well, my godly name is, Lord Tire Sword. However, from now on, you have to call me Master. From now on, this Lord Tire Sword will be responsible for your practice. Meet the Master. Suqianyu felt as if she was dreaming. Since it is a dream, you still have to seize the opportunity quickly. Do you need to say goodbye? If not, don't waste time. Hurry up to God's realm with Master and start your glorious future. Tire Sword Lord smiled. Let those old guys see, I'm not fooling around, I'm very capable, he muttered. Master, what did you say? No, do you want to say goodbye? Suqianyu was actually a little bitter. He quickly went to the side of Ximenchen Su, and the two of them unexpectedly separated. Just this girl? It's okay. Let's go up together and be a maid sword boy for you. I'll just give you a god-level evolution source. Tire Sword Master said cheerfully. Suqianyu almost knelt down, life was so wonderful, and the tears of parting instantly turned into tears of joy. Then, everyone watched with their own eyes as Tire Sword Master Yu Jian took the two of them and flew away, disappearing between heaven and earth. Throughout the entire process, people were sluggish. Especially Huangfu-kun and the others. Originally, Suqianyu was almost the same as them, but now suddenly, one is in the sky and the other is on the ground. The creation of the human world is so magical. I can't be envious, Li Zixiao sighed. He is approaching his age and will soon enter the well of the middle god realm. Next, he will have to struggle slowly to gain the recognition of the ancient gods. You should have more opportunities, so take advantage of them, he patted Zhang Zizi on the shoulder. In fact, Zhang Zizi is going to the ancient demon tomb and the god's domain now. It's easy to get together. Then everyone went their separate ways, and the people in Jianyuan city dispersed. They still have to spread out and look for opportunities to reach the divine realm in the well of the divine realm, hoping that one day they can climb out from the bottom of the well and reach the real realm. Divine domain. It would be great if he was monkey after leaving Jianyuan city, Lu Dingxing said yearningly. It sounds like he has a bright future. If we have a chance to meet him in the future, if his temperament is really good, we can make friends, Zhang Zizi said. He is not very jealous of Suqianyu. Everyone has their own circumstances, and what Suqianyu gets may not be suitable for him. You go to the demon tomb, me, the evolutionary world, Lu Dingxing asked. Go in and stay for a while, then I'll take you across the border, Zhang Zizi said with a smile. They were standing on a high mountain. Before entering Jianyuan city, Zhang Zizi put the bell to Zhang Yanning, and now he was preparing to let Lu Dingxing go in too. Then he set out for the ancient demon tomb. Just when he was about to start the evolutionary world, suddenly, a person appeared in front of him. The man wore a red and black mask, which was very strange. His eyes were extremely deep, and his robes were flapping in the strong wind. His look was enough to make Zhang Zizi's heart almost jump out of his chest. This is also a god. He is the guardian of the ancient demon tomb. He should have been in the ancient demon tomb, but he didn't expect to appear here. Ancient god, I was just about to go to the demon tomb, but I didn't expect you to come, Zhang Zizi said hurriedly. He was alarmed. Fortunately, he didn't have time to open the evolution world, otherwise the evolution world would be exposed to the ancient god. I heard that Tai Erjianjun stole the Wangchuan sword. I just went to see it and saw you broke through there, the guardian said. So that's it? That means he shouldn't have seen Zhang Zizi before Zhang Zizi arrived at Jianyuan city. He should have been there when Xuanhuan inherited. That guy is really lucky. Zhang Zizai smiled. Are you talking about Xuanhuan or Tai Erg? The guardian asked. Tai Erg, Zhang Zai was stunned. From what the guardian said, it seemed that this incident showed that Tai Erg was also lucky. He is really lucky. If he brings Xuanhuan back, his status will rise. But I am also lucky, the guardian said. Is it because I have reached the initial god realm? I am also a natural talent, Zhang Zizai asked. You are talking nonsense. The guardian glanced at him, then stretched out his hand and pushed Zhang Zizai aside. At this time, it was Lu Dingxing who stood in front of him. He stared at Lu Dingxing's eyes, and from his eyes, he was extremely amazed and even a little excited. What a miracle! It is definitely the bloodline of the ancient demon god. You are the descendant of the ancient demon god? There are actually descendants of the ancient demon god in this world. And in the ordinary totem world, incredible, the guardian was even a little incoherent. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 740. 3 drops of cold sweat fell on Zhang Zizai's forehead. What's going on? He is obviously the most coquettish, so why are these ancient gods staring at the people around him one by one? Even Xuanhuan was taken away as a treasure. Could it be that now? What is the ancient demon god? He forced a smile. Among the ancient demons, the most peak bloodline, the pure ancient demons, have been passed down and reproduced by blood since ancient times, rather than becoming demons the day after tomorrow. Their bloodline can be traced back more than 1,000,000 years, and their ancestors have been born with it for millions of years. Devil, the guardian said excitedly. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Then what? Zhang Zizai expected his shock. The current guardian is no different from the Tire Sword Lord. What else? This is definitely the most suitable successor of the ancient demon tomb. Our ancient demon lineage finally has hope of seeing the light of day again. Instead of living a life of lingering and being humiliated by anyone. The ancient demon tomb is just for him. It has been passed down to this day, the guardian said excitedly. You mean, he will be very good in the future? Zhang Zizai asked. Nonsense, as a descendant of the ancient demon tomb, with the protection of our Dao demon sect, his future will only be more brilliant than that of the successor of the Wang Chuan sword. After all, our ancient demon lineage has too many inheritances and needs the blood of the ancient demon god. It's on. No wonder he showed up directly instead of waiting for me at the ancient demon tomb. Lu Dingxing's so-called ancient demon god's bloodline comes from the evolutionary world. He is actually not born with it, but it doesn't matter. The guardian obviously doesn't know, and even if he knows, it can't change the fact that the eye itself is Lu Dingxing's own. I'm a little confused. Before I hand my brother over to you, I have to understand the details, Zhang Zizai said seriously. In fact, if the other party has any conspiracy, they can't resist at all, and they will be in trouble if they encounter it. It feels like this guardian can be trusted. And he still had some patience. He glanced at Zhang Zizai and said, it's roughly like this. In the past, gods and demons existed in the divine domain. Later, the ancient gods became more powerful and almost wiped out the ancient demons. The ancient demon tomb was at that time. What remains is that our Dao demon sect is the only ancient demon force in the divine domain today, but it is actually a mixture of gods and demons, dominated by ancient gods. Among them, our demon sect has declined, and I am the leader of the demon sect. What happened to the ancient demon tomb? The ancient gods established it and sealed the demon corpses in it for permanent torture. The demon corpses you saw last time were all like this. Of course, they were already dead. I tell you, you must not, Luan said, since this person is your brother, you need to keep it a secret. The ancient gods don't know that the ancient demons have left their inheritance in this demon tomb, waiting for the descendants of the ancient demon god's bloodline to open it. Are you willing to tell me such an important secret? Zhang Zizai finally understood what was going on. The ancient demon is extinct, and the demon corpse is trapped in the ancient demon tomb, tortured forever, but quietly leaving behind a legacy. The few ancient demons who have become demons today are part of the Dao demon sect and are mainly responsible for guarding the ancient demon tomb. But at least the guardian in front of them is on the side of the ancient demon. Otherwise, he would not know about the ancient demon god and the inheritance of the demon tomb. I know your character from the last test. If you spread the word randomly, it will only kill your brother. But if I don't tell you clearly, you will probably make more nonsense, so I will just let you know. The guardian said. That makes sense. Actually, the secrets are very complicated. The establishment of the Dao demon sect, etc., involves many historical root issues. You have never been to the god's domain. I say you don't understand. All you need is that the demon tomb has the inheritance of the ancient demon. He has the bloodline of the ancient demon god will slowly grow after inheritance, and one day our ancient demon lineage will be revived. For the time being, he will cultivate in the divine realm as a disciple of the ordinary demon sect. Understood. Zhang Zizai nodded. He asked Lu Dingxing, what do you think? Do it, Lu Dingxing said. He had already considered it. Now that such an opportunity has come to him, even if he has no feelings for the ancient demon, he will regret it for the rest of his life if he misses it. Xuanhuan, I admire your personality. However, our Dao demon sect cannot accept you, the guardian said. I don't want to go to your Dao demon sect either. Zhang Zizai was speechless, thinking that he was so talented that he had been ignored. You are capable, but you don't have any special features. Sooner or later, you will be surpassed by your brother. His talent is more than 100 times that of yours, the guardian said. Don't hit people like this, Zhang Zizai gritted his teeth. These bastards would say that Shenxiao Lingxian was 10 times better than him, and Lu Dingxing would be 100 times better than him. They were really disrespectful. Of course, he was actually happy in his heart. If one day he could be protected by them, it would be a great pleasure. You are wrong. He is 10,000 times stronger than me, Lu Dingxing said seriously. Innocent, the guardian smiled, pointed at himself, and said, my name is Duan Mulian, and I am the master of the demon sect of the Dao demon section. You will practice as an ordinary disciple of the Dao demon sect, and I will secretly lead you to inheritance, can you? No problem. What are you talking about? Duan Mulian asked. He thinks it's cooler to talk like this, so just leave it alone, Zhang Zizai interjected. Whatever, Duan Mulian had already made an agreement. He couldn't wait to bring Lu Dingxing back to Dao Mo section. Then he glanced at Zhang Zizai and said, according to the previous agreement, I will throw you away in the god's domain casually. From now on, you be blessed. Okay, but I want to ask you a few questions, Zhang Zizai said. If you have anything to say, please speak up, Duan Mulian said. Where is the sacrifice dragon divine domain? Zhang Zizai asked. Sacrifice dragon divine domain? I haven't heard of it. There is only one divine domain between heaven and earth. Where is the sacrifice dragon divine domain? Duan Mulian answered concisely. No, Zhang Zizai was stunned. Juxian asked her to go to the sacrifice dragon divine domain to find her. Duan Mulian actually said that there is no sacrifice dragon divine domain. This is funny. Is it impossible? Is there money to be made by lying to you? Even he doesn't know about the sacrifice dragon divine domain. How could this be? Maybe the sacrifice dragon divine domain is just a very small place in the divine domain, so he doesn't know about it? Any other questions? Duan Mulian seemed to be eager to take Lu Dingxing to the ancient demon tomb. Zhang Zizai could only put down the dragon sacrifice divine domain for the time being and continued to ask, are the Holy Emperor Heavenly Gate, the Eternal Night Star Sea, the Forgotten River Sword Tomb and the Dao Demon Sect the strongest forces in the divine domain. The Holy Emperor Heavenly Gate, the Eternal Night Star Sea and the Forgotten River Sword Tomb are considered the strongest level, with many ancient gods in them. Our Dao Demon Sect is slightly worse, and is considered the second level. However, with this kid, things will be different in the future. By the way, what's your name? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 741. Lu Dingxing Zhangzai said. Doesn't he know how to talk? You're always the one who talks too much, Duan Mulian said. He's quite cold, Zhang Zizai said. Duan Mulian looked at Lu Dingxing for a few times, then asked Zhang Zizai, next question. What is the strongest force in the God realm? I want to join this force. He was angry. Didn't he say that everyone was more talented than him? He had to go to the place with the biggest competition to fight and see who was better. Now, it's naturally the God King Palace, the supreme of the God realm. You want to join the God King Palace, aren't you afraid of being laughed at? Duan Mulian smiled contemptuously. Very difficult. It's not difficult, it's impossible. The divine realm is so vast, and the divine King Palace only accepts one man and one woman every year. The worst geniuses in the divine realm are better than Zhang Fanshan. The divine King Palace is a place that everyone flocks to, so how could it be your turn? If you say so, I will definitely go. I like challenges the most. And then you kneel down after being beaten up with a swollen nose and face. You dare to look down on me, quickly bring me to the divine realm, I want to slap you in the face, Zhang Zizai said. He Duan Mulian smiled contemptuously, took out a black token from nowhere, threw it to Zhang Zizai, and said, this is the God King order. Only with this can you participate in the selection of the God King Palace. This year's God King Palace assessment is about to begin. The God King Palace only accepts one man and one woman. There are countless male geniuses in the God realm. The last Chu Chen was only considered a very rubbish in the Holy Emperor Tianmen. If you really have this idea, I suggest you castrate yourself and participate in the assessment of the women's group. There may be a little chance. Castrate yourself? Women's group, Zhang Zizai was angry. It was really disrespectful. He was so humiliating. I see that you have fair skin and beautiful face. If you castrate yourself, you should have some capital. Remember to find someone to make your breasts bigger. Duan Mulian smiled. The last time I met him, I thought he was very serious and rigid, but I didn't expect him to be such a wretched person. Since you are an ancient god, I won't bother with you. Don't waste time. I'm going to the God realm to participate in the assessment of the God King Palace. When I become a member of the God King Palace, you will regret not recognizing Taishan today. Haha, you are ambitious. I hope you don't join the God King Palace with another man, Duan Mulian said. Zhang Zizai laughed dumbly. This person is quite good at joking, so Zhang Zizai was just joking with him. Don't have too much hope. The so-called God King Palace is the territory of the King of Ancient Gods. There are actually very few people in the God King Palace, but each one is an absolute elite. When you really participate in the assessment, you will know how far you are now, Duan Mulian said seriously. It's okay. Before I entered the ancient demon tomb, I was still in the second level of Tianyuan realm. And people in the God realm are born with totems. They basically complete the Wuoming realm at the age of 3, the Xuanmei realm at the age of 6, and the Shengti realm at the age of 10. How do you compare the totem world and the God realm? You worship the ancient gods, and our parents are the ancient gods. Duan Mulian smiled. This is reality. Unless you are Lu Dingxing, you have the capital to catch up. As long as he gets the inheritance, I can let him quickly enter the initial God realm and surpass you in strength. It won't take long. Last time, your two beauties, in half a year, had already been cultivated by the ancient gods and surpassed you by a lot. Really? A little pressure. Zhang Zizhe smiled. There is pressure. After all, he is going to the world of gods. It is not easy to create geniuses. He can create geniuses. So, adapting to pressure is what you have to do. Keep your heart steady, Zhang Zizhe. I am actually optimistic about you. Duan Mulian patted his shoulder. If you are willing to castrate yourself, he added. How do you get to the god's domain from the well of the god's domain? What Zhang Zizhe saw was that Duan Mulian took out a bead, and after the bead changed, it formed a mirror, and the ripples on the mirror became a lake. Then, he didn't even give Lu Dingxing a chance to say goodbye, and directly picked up Zhang Zizhe and threw him into the mirror. At that moment, Zhang Zizhe passed through the mirror and came to another world. He stood on the vast land, staring at everything around him in a daze. Where he was, it was a wilderness, and under his feet was a piece of black land. There was no soil or sand, but huge rocks. Each black rock was as big as a mountain. The first feeling was the divine spirit. This was indeed the divine spirit coming from the box of life and death island. The divine spirit was all over the world, and all kinds of heavenly power were more obvious. This is the God's domain, this is a completely different world. The only difference is that the divine spirit here seems to be a little thinner than that of the life and death island, which may be related to the location here. He was a little dazed. When he saw the sun in the sky, he was completely sure that he was in the divine realm. Damn! He looked up and saw that the golden sun was shining all over the world, just like the mortal world, but the key point was that the sun above his head seemed to have a diameter of more than 10 feet. It was hundreds of times larger than the sun in the mortal world. Because of this, the light shining on him was so scorching. But the flowers, plants, and trees in this divine realm can actually withstand this environment, which is really a miracle. The moon is not visible now, and it is estimated that the moon is also this big. The spirit of the gods, the sun, my parents are ancient gods, I have a totem at birth, and I have evolved directly to a god-level totem. Living here is what we call life. Zhang Zizhe couldn't help but feel that in such an environment, it was not without reason that the geniuses of the divine realm were far ahead. Even a pig can become a god-level source beast if placed here, Zhang Zizhe said with emotion. He was right, it was not a pig, but a mythical beast. Now in this endless world of God's domain, he looked around blankly. At this time, he saw the God King's order in his hand. At least, there is a goal. Shenxiao, Lingxian, Panda, and that Suqianyu have all arrived in the divine realm. They all have the protection of power and guidance to grow up. I can't fall behind. He clenched the God King's order in his hand. God King's palace, here I come. King of gods. Zhang Zizhe was a little curious, how powerful could the so-called king be? At first I thought my parents were here, but now it seems impossible. If I can enter the God King's palace, I will definitely become famous. She will hear about my fame and come to me, right? After all, she is an ancient god no matter what, so she should be able to protect herself. Zhang Zizhe, let's go. In the future, the update time will be changed to 2200 hours PM because Madman writes a lot of books in the afternoon and evening recently. It's a bit too late to have 4 chapters by 6 o'clock. Sorry. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 742. After arriving at the divine realm, they were basically like headless flies, not knowing where they were and in which direction the divine king palace was. Before that, there were 2 people who needed to be separated. That was Baishan Jin and Wan Qian. After Lu Dingxing left, they decided when Zhang Zizhe came to the divine realm that they wanted to go out and explore on their own after arriving at the divine realm. Zhang Zizai had already given them a lot of capital, and their future fortunes would depend on themselves. At this point, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. For us, arriving at the divine realm is something we dare not think about. This has actually given us too much, so we decided that we can't always be under your protection. We want to go out and really explore and hone ourselves, Bai Shenjin said very seriously. Boss, we have indeed considered it. The divine realm is an extremely huge platform for us, and we should go out and find our own future, Wan Qian said. Of course, if you have any benefits, such as the god-level evolution source, you can come to us immediately and wait for your arrival at any time, haha. Bai Shenjin laughed. Although the god's domain is large, as long as you wear a set of god guidance rings, you can roughly sense the direction of the other party. With some effort, you can find them. Okay, this is good for you. Of course, if there are any benefits, I will find you first. If you have any trouble, come to me at any time. Zhang Zizai respected their ideas. It is true that the cultivation environment of this god's domain is very good, and now the divine spirit of the life and death island is left to Zhang Junjian, and the benefits of cultivating in the evolution world are not great. Before they left, Zhang Zizai left them a lot of life-saving things. With their strength, they are considered the lowest level of the god's domain. They obviously know how to survive in a low profile. The two help each other, and there will be no big problems. I hope that when our King of Glory team reunites, we will not be too different from you, Bai Shenjin said. Haha. These two teenagers resolutely set foot on the distant place. Zhang Zizai admires their courage. In the evolution realm, only Zhang Yuning and Ruo Xiaoyu were left. Their two aunts were helping Zhang Zizai to carry the bell. When I settle down in the divine realm, I have to let them settle down too. We can't always stay in the evolution realm, a place where no one lives. If he could become a disciple of the Divine King Palace, he would probably be able to find a place to shelter his sisters. He looked at the vast world. In fact, he wanted to find Juxian. She must have some status in the divine realm. I hope she can come to me when I become famous. The status of the demon sect master Duan Mulien of the Dao demon sect is already very high. He doesn't even know the location of the sacrifice dragon divine realm. Zhang Zizai estimates that not many people know it, but he will slowly ask. The most urgent task is to find the Divine King Palace. A sect backer is too important for me who has no foundation now. Otherwise, if I provoke someone, as long as they have a little background and a little powerful elder, they can make me fall into ruin. You must remember that this is the God's domain, the world of God. The ancient gods are the masters. The demigods of the initial god realm are probably just ordinary people here. He chose the east and started to move eastward with the flying talisman. He had almost learned the talismans of the life and death talisman section. There were only a few dry level talismans, but this was the most difficult. Zhang Zizai had just started to practice. His flying talisman was very fast and very labor saving. Find a gathering place for people, a town, or a tribe, so that I can truly understand this god's domain. Zhang Zizai was particularly excited when he first arrived. This is the god's domain of dreams, the world of gods, how can he not be curious? Thinking back to the world when he first got the totem, in his mind, this world of gods was full of immortal beings. Now even if he knows that there are mortals in this world, his longing and yearning for this place has not diminished at all. I heard that the people in the entire god realm did not get the totem bestowed by the ancient gods in the origin god pillar, but awakened the totem directly when they were born. Just like a bell, they have a totem at birth. People in the god realm can start practicing as soon as they are born, and the god court hole is directly opened. Normally, many people can complete the Wyoming realm at the age of 3. Those with good talents can complete the practice of the Xuanhuan realm before the age of 6, and reach the peak of the Saint Body realm at the age of 9. It is really far from ours who start practicing at the age of 8 or 9. This is strange. Why don't their totems come from the origin god pillar, but are directly inherited by blood? It is said that ordinary ancient gods cannot split totems to give to all living beings. Only the king of gods in the legend can separate the totem, sprinkle it on the pool of all living beings, and then pass it to the origin god pillar of countless totem worlds. This was what Zhangziu learned when he was in the well of the god realm and talked with Li Zixiao and others. He used to think that all ancient gods could split totems, and that god-level totems had this ability. In fact, only the totem of the king of gods has such terrifying power. In a place like the god's domain, the god-level totem is only the beginning of the gods, and there must be many higher-level totems. Being able to split billions of totems and benefit all living beings, if you think about it carefully, you will know how powerful and great this is. Now think about it, it is normal that ordinary ancient gods can't do it. The gods of the gods in the god's domain, the totems are inherited by blood, and the totems of all living beings in the totem world come from the king of gods. This is actually why Zhang Zizai wanted to go to the God King Palace. He wanted to see what kind of terrifying existence such a God King was. His flying talisman crossed the rocky jungle, then crossed a huge forest, and came out of the forest full of towering ancient trees. He avoided some top-level source beasts and finally saw a huge city at the end of the horizon. This city is bigger than all the cities Zhang Zizai has seen. It is white, like a white fortress, with walls with dragon scale patterns coiled around it. The whole city looks like a coiled white dragon, shining under the scorching sun. The closer he got, the bigger he found the city. When he got closer, he could see many people from all directions heading towards the city. This might be a very large core city nearby, with a lot of people coming and going. This is exactly what Zhang Zizai, who has just arrived in the god's domain, needs, because in such a place, he can get the information he needs, for example, where the sacrifice dragon god's domain and the god king palace are. After getting closer, he got off the flying talisman and honestly mixed into the crowd into the city. He secretly looked around at the people around him and was actually stunned.